Okay, g'day guys. Welcome once again to the Tripod, where we break down every single NRL game every week from a betting perspective. This week we will be going through round 19 in the NRL. Actually, let me just make sure I am on the correct internet. This doesn't fuck up again. May or may not cut out for a few seconds. And I think we are good. So yeah. All right. Let's get kicked off into round 19. Really good week last week. 15-5 on best bets, which is obviously 75%. Can't hope to do that every week, but we're certainly going to try this week. This week's a big one. This is my last week doing it solo. We're going to have Jacob back next week from his trip around Europe. So we've done all right in his absence. We've won 6 weeks in a row on the NRL. We were on the right side of every single one of the Origin games this year. So we're certainly in profit over this past 6 weeks and on the year as well. So before we get started into round 19, I guess if you have won some money with us over the past few weeks, if I can ask you guys a massive favor, obviously we do all this for free. We don't ask for any money for our tips and that kind of thing. So if you do enjoy the pod and if you have won some money with us, if you could do one of the following 3 things, that would be fantastic. We would really appreciate it. Either hop over to wherever you listen to your podcasts, search for Tripod NRL Betting Podcast, find our podcast, give us 5 stars. You can do, or, go review our app. You can find that obviously on the App Store or on Google Play. Throw that one a 5-star review. Or just tell one of your mates about the pod. We certainly like to help people win money, so the more people that know, the better. So, if you could do one of those 3 things, if you have won some money through us over the past few weeks or the past few years, that would be fantastic. Let's get kicked off. Thursday night. I will give you guys a little disclaimer here. Not too many best bets for this round so far. I will explain why as we go through each game. There's a lot of numbers or a lot of lines that seem fairly fair to me. If they move half a point or a point, I'd probably be inclined to jump on them. But as of now, don't have a hell of a lot of best bets. But that's where you have to be selective. So certainly we try not to force any best bets if we don't love any of the games. So only 5 best bets for tonight's pod and only on 2 games. All right, let's start off with the Thursday night game. Sharks laying 5.5 points, hosting the Cowboys. 39.5 is the total. I want to bet the Sharks here. I know that these 2 teams are equal on points, but I really do think that the Cowboys will not be making the 8, and I think the Sharks kind of deserve to make the 8. The points difference between them, I think they're both on 16 points. I think Sharks are sitting like 11th. And Cowboys 13th. I do think the Sharks are the better team. I guess both teams, pretty down in the dumps at the moment. We've got the Sharks who've lost 5 games in a row, pretty much out of nowhere after I really thought they'd take off if they got healthy, but they just haven't gotten healthy. And the Cowboys have lost 4 of their last 5 games. So both teams kind of, in a bit of a slump at the moment. I know that it is a Thursday night game, but you have pretty much perfect weather there. I think that perfect weather favors the Sharks. I think that they're, more of an expansive style of play team, whereas the Cowboys are fairly defensive-minded, aren't going to throw up a bunch of points. So I think that the fine weather favors the Sharks. But there's just enough to keep me off the Sharks at the moment. The line's 5.5. Shark Park, you have a relatively strong home field advantage, especially for a team, traveling all the way from Townsville. I would probably give the Sharks 2 to 2.5 points for home field. So we're saying that the Sharks are 3 points better than the Cowboys. Now, can we make a case that the Sharks are 3 points better than the Cowboys? Probably, but it's probably pretty much right, especially with Fafita suspended, especially with still no Matt Moylan there. They probably are around 3 points better than a Cowboys side still without Michael Morgan. So I'm holding off for now. If this line drops to below 4, which I've seen on some sites, you can get like Sharks minus 3.5 for about $1.78. So if that ticks over to $1.80, actually I forgot to put the graphic up here. If that ticks up above $1.80, I'd certainly be inclined to jump on that one. But as of now, certainly leaning towards this Sharks team. Alrighty, moving on to the Knights laying 5.5 points, hosting the Tigers. 39.5 is the total. Yeah, sorry, Nick. I forgot to put the graphics on. I hope you guys can see them all right now. Knights hosting the Tigers, 5.5 point favourites. 39.5 is the total. Kind of a similar one to the Sharks and the Cowboys. I do think that the Knights are the better team here. Knights have a very strong home field advantage. I would give them probably about a 3-point home field advantage. Probably not as high, maybe 2.5 points if you are playing another team that is from New South Wales, so there's not a whole lot of travel involved, which we have here in the Tigers. So give the Knights 2 points for home field. Are they 3 to 3.5 points better than the Tigers? Possibly, but I'd say the distance between these two teams is probably a bit closer than the Thursday game. So if I did have to bet on this one, I would play the Tigers, but I'm just hoping that some money comes in for the Tigers. For the Knights, and I can get a 6.5 on the Tigers, because at that point, I think I would jump on it. Obviously, disappointing loss for the Tigers last week, but you get Corey Thompson back this week, and I think he really struggled back there at fullback. So I think getting Corey Thompson back, who is an average to above average fullback in the NRL, then I would be inclined to take this Tigers team. It is kind of a bad spot to go against the Knights, though, after just being demolished by the Roosters. But if this line trickles up, which, it probably can, I think that the public probably likes the Knights more so than the Tigers, then I'll certainly jump on it. But as of now, can't find any line above 6.5, so I'm just going to leave it. Next up, Rabbits laying 7.5 points, hosting the Dragons. 40.5 is the total. Oh, I know. I said that the Dragons were completely done for the season. I didn't want any part of them. But as you know, with the tripod, there's no team that we are afraid to back, and there's no team that we are afraid to back against. And I just think this line has trickled up a bit too high here now. I know that the Rabbits team, when fully healthy, are very, very good. They're on a 2-game win streak now, but they're not fully healthy. You don't have Sam Burgess there. You don't have Tom Burgess, looking like he's going to be pretty unlikely. Sam is almost definitely not going to play. I know he's named in the extended reserves, but they reckon he's still another 2 to 3 weeks away. You still don't have Alex Johnson there, so you don't have a full-strength Rabbitohs team. But on the flip side, this Dragon side, I understand that they're probably not going to make the finals, but this is the biggest boost for this team ever, getting Gareth Widdop back. This might just be the boost that they need to say, all right, let's just give this one more push to try and make the finals, even though it's very, very unlikely. But getting Gareth Widdop back, I expect a full effort from this Dragon side. And really, this Rabbitohs team, playing another interstate team, maybe 1.5 points for home field. So you're telling me the Rabbits are 6 points better than the Dragons? I don't think so. What I also think, I've held off for now on giving out any additional best bets, but I really do think this line may trickle up to 8.5 points, at which point I would definitely take the Dragons, because I don't think anyone from the public is taking the Dragons. They just got trounced by the Panthers. On the flip side, the Rabbits are on a 2-game win streak. Not only that, we always talk about, results from the previous week being a bit, how would you say it, misleading. I think that the Rabbits win last week over the Cowboys was certainly misleading. They should have lost that game, really, if it wasn't for, 3 late tries. And the Dragons just get absolutely fucking obliterated last week. So I think we have a good setup here. I think money will keep trickling in for the Rabbits tomorrow. And I'll have another look tomorrow before I release best bets in the Tripod app. But I certainly probably will have some more bets on the Dragons. But just the one best bet for now. The Dragons team total over 15.5. You find that one at $1.80 on Ladbrokes and on Neds. And that's the only one that I want at the moment. Everyone pretty much had them 7.5. So I will be looking out for 8.5s and plus 4s and stuff like that. First half and second half. So if you guys see them, certainly let me know. Next up, the Eels laying 4.5 points hosting the Warriors. 42.5 is the total. I want to play the Warriors here. I think that these two teams are pretty much even if they are fully healthy. But, both teams aren't fully healthy here. We've got the Eels with Blake Ferguson out for another week or so. Sean Lane out as well, so that doesn't help. But with all that combined, if Cody Nikorima is good to go and this line is 4.5, I'm definitely going to be betting on the Warriors. But yeah, from everything that I've heard, it's pretty much a 50-50 whether he plays or not. So, obviously with that ankle injury, he had the moon boot on after the game. But if Cody Nickering is good to go, I think this Warriors team is just as good, if not better than this Eels team. And this Eels home field advantage is not worth 4.5 points, that's for sure. So keep my ear to the ground. Obviously, if I hear any news that he's definitely in, which, we may not know till, the day of the game pretty much. So, but if Cody Nikorima plays, I certainly like the Warriors here. They've been playing well. You just look at their body of work for the last 6 weeks. They have not put a foot wrong after they got, blasted by the Storm. Every single game has been either a win, a draw, or a close loss to the Panthers by 1 point. So that, the last 6 weeks they've been playing very, very good footy. The Eels, on the other hand, they've got the short turnaround. They played on Sunday. I just think that everything, points towards the Warriors here. But, if Cody Nikorima is out and this line stays at 4.5, then I don't want any part of it. Next up, interstate. Well, I guess you could call it a rivalry. I don't know what you call a rivalry these days, but, I guess Queensland rivalry. There you go. Titans plus 6.5 points hosting the Broncos. 40.5 points is the total. I want to play the Broncos here, and some of you may ask why I haven't played the Broncos yet, because, if you just look at this line in a vacuum, I guess I didn't play Storm last week, but the Storm, it's exactly the same as what was last week. You had Titans at home, plus 6.5 points, and the only difference is you had a fully depleted Storm side, and here you have a fully healthy Broncos side. Now, is a fully healthy Broncos side better than that Storm team that took the park last week? Probably. And I guess I said, last week that line trickled down to 5.5 for the Storm. And if I wasn't fucking around, I probably would have taken 5.5 with the Storm. But I would do the same in this game. If this line trickles under 5.5 or to 5.5, I would definitely think about taking the Broncos. But it's one of those ones where it's like the Titans have been terrible. They've lost 4 in a row now. They're last on the ladder. What are the games that they're going to get up for? And it's a game like this against the Broncos. At home, against your interstate rival. You've been absolutely terrible all season long. This is one of those games that I really could see the Titans getting up for. And they do tend to always play the Broncos fairly tough. The one concern I'd have, obviously, if I was backing the Titans, you do get 3 extra days rest if you are a Broncos fan, or, the Broncos team gets 3 extra days rest, obviously, off that Thursday game. And that is certainly a factor at this time of the season. I'd probably even say that 3 days rest is worth about 0.5 point in the point spread. You get Matt Gillette back. So, I want to take the Broncos, but if you look at this game, once again, in a line vacuum, 6.5 points for a home underdog, you're basically saying, and Titans home field probably isn't that strong, but you're saying that the Broncos are 8 points or so better than the Titans, and whether I can justify that or not, I don't know. And another what if is just the Titans' motivation, if they're actually going to come out and be motivated in this one. And I think there's a better than 50-50 chance that they probably do show up for this one against the Broncos. So unless this line trickles down, which I doubt it will, I can't see any public money coming for the Titans, then I'm just going to have to leave it. But certainly if I could find some decent lines on the Broncos, if it trickles down under 6 or something like that, then I would certainly play them. Next up, Storm laying 8.5 points against Manly. 39.5 points is the total. A lot of people have been liking Manly this week, and I can completely understand why. Manly are a very solid team. I said in the recap pod that, in my eyes, a full strength Manly with Cherry and the Trebojevic brothers in is probably a top 5-6 team in the comp. I think definitely you could say a top 6 team in the comp. But the Storm have been playing the best out of any team by far. They've won 9 games in a row. And so, at 8.5, so it seems like a lot, right? You look at this game, 8.5 points. Wow, holy shit, that's a lot. But you've got to factor in home field, first of all. And I think, Melbourne has one of the stronger home fields in the comp. I give them, 3 points for home field. So now you've got to make the argument that Manly are not 5.5 points worse than this Storm team. And it's close. And, I could maybe make the argument that they're 5 points, 4.5 points worse. But what you do have is you have the 5 Origin players for the Storm. Was it 5 or 6 maybe? Whatever it is. You have them all completely rested off a bye. So that's an absolutely great spot for the Storm. You have their Origin stars all completely fresh coming into this game against Manly. And I think, that game against the Titans, they kind of let up a little bit, let in a couple of early tries. That won't happen this week. They know that Manly is a legit side, and they will knuckle down for this one. So at this point, the 8.5 is just not enough for me to take Manly. I really think that, the Storm are considerably better, and you have all your stars rested. I get that Manly is a very solid team, but 8.5 is just not enough points for me to take once you factor in home field and the rested Origin stars. And another game I don't have a play on at the moment is the Dogs, plus 15.5, hosting the Roosters. 40.5 is the total. Once again, you rarely see plus 15.5 points in the NRL. It is one of the closest comps in the world. You generally don't see double-digit underdogs, but this is probably fair enough. We have the Bulldogs side, which is, you can argue whether the Bulldogs or the Titans are the shittest team in the comp. It's probably a coin toss, really. And what you have is a Roosters side who, when motivated and when they get a roll on, you can see what they did. And you saw what they did last week against the Knights. They scored, 42 points in the second half? Like, that's fucking ridiculous. So the same thing could easily happen here. But, I said last week that this Bulldogs, it was an absolutely terrible spot for them. They'd put in 2 great performances in a row. They had a close loss to the Sharks. Then they beat the Knights. And I just said that, it's hard to put in 2, 3 great performances in a row when you are as shit as this Bulldog side. But what did they do last week? They lay an egg against the Broncos. Now they have a full, long recovery to play this Roosters side. I do expect the Bulldogs to show up in this one. And if anything, I would certainly be leaning towards the Bulldogs. But there's absolutely no hurry if you want to get on the Bulldogs. I've seen this game before. I've seen these lines before, and generally they tend to trickle up. So it would not surprise me at all if you could get a plus 18 on the Bulldogs come game day. I don't think anyone wants to touch this Bulldog side, and every single average punter is going to be on the Roosters this week, throwing them in all of their multis, all that kind of stuff. So all the bookies will have giant liability on the Roosters, and they won't mind moving that line up to 16.5, 17.5, 18, I reckon. So I'm going to reassess. I don't feel great about it. You don't have a huge home field advantage at ANZ. So I wouldn't feel great about taking the Bulldogs, but certainly if I could get, something like 18, I would seriously consider taking the Bulldogs. I do think they show up in this one. And the one game that I love for the week is the Penny Panthers. That is going against nearly every comment or post that I've seen in our group so far. So the Panthers plus 1.5 points, hosting the Raiders. 38.5 is the total. There's probably been no other team tipped as much as this Raiders side in our group and in our app that I've seen for this week. And I can understand why. This Raiders side has been a juggernaut. They've been extremely solid all year long. They haven't pretty much had one bad game all season. And this Panthers side has been fairly up and down. I get it. And obviously the big loss is Viliami Kikau. And I've seen a lot of people, obviously this game was pick'em. Kikau gets ruled out, and now the Panthers are 1.5 point favourites. Let's not overreact here. I understand that Kikau is a great player, but like the very, very best forwards in the comp are maybe worth 1.5 points. So I think Kikau, and especially with the Panthers' depth in their forward pack, I would not change the line more than 0.5 point for Viliami Kikau. I know that seems crazy, but I would say that someone like that, value over replacement, you have to think about that as well, and you can just slot whoever you slot in there, Liam Martin or whatever. And it's probably worth 0.25 point to lose someone like Kikau. So I don't understand the huge line move. I get that people like the Raiders here. They've been very, very solid. But whatever they call it now. Do they call it Panther Stadium? Panther Stadium. It's fairly strong home field advantage, and I would give that a 2.5 point home field advantage, especially for a team traveling from Canberra to Penrith, and historically a fairly strong home field advantage. I give that 2.5 points. You're telling me the Raiders are 4 points better than a Panthers team on a 7-game win streak? I don't think so. I think arguably this Panthers side over the last 2 months has played better football than this Raiders side. I'd still say that these teams are probably fairly even, maybe give a slight edge to the Raiders. I say maybe they're half a point better. But you cannot make the Panthers underdogs at home. That's absolutely absurd. I do think that the Panthers win this game outright, but if you're giving me them as an underdog, I'm absolutely going to take it. All right, I'm taking 4 best bets as of now. It is by far my favorite game of the round. I did say that, obviously I didn't love too many games this week. A lot of them were kind of borderline in terms of the line, and I have to see if that moves or if I can jag, get it another key point or whatnot. Yes, Lewis, I do actually think that it could get out to +2, and that's why I haven't taken the full game handicap at the moment. I could have made myself a mechanical 2, but I do think that, once sometimes these games that go from pick'em, or like, let's say, small favourites and it's a flip favourite, sometimes that line does just keep rolling and you do get a 2.5 come game day. But these plays here, like +0.5, I'll go through them anyway and then I'll explain. Taking 4 best bets on the game. First one is the Panthers +0.5 point in the first half. That's $1.82 on Bet365. Taking the Panthers +0.5 in the second half. That's $1.87 on Sportsbet. Taking the Panthers team total over 6.5 in the first half. That is $1.80 on Bet365. And taking the Panthers +0.5 a try. That is absurd at $1.80 on Bet365. Like, I get that the Panthers have a better goal kicker, but it's only slight, and if you're getting +0.5 a try, I think that's way better than taking +1.5 points for the game. Okay, back to your question, Lewis, whatever it is. I do think that it can get to +2, and that's why I'm waiting. The only reason I've taken these ones here is just, the risk of, like, I'm not going to get much better than 0.5 point first half or 0.5 point second half. Like, even if the line goes out to 2 to 2.5, I'm not going to get better than that. But I'm holding off on the full game handicap because I think the line could get to 2. And if it does, I'll certainly pull the trigger. But even if it doesn't, I can probably make myself a mechanical +2 or whatnot. But if for whatever reason the Panthers quickly flip into favourites, then I won't be able to get those +0.5 first half, +0.5 second half, all that kind of stuff. So I'm grabbing them now because I think that the risk of waiting far outweighs the chance that we actually get a better price than that or a better line than that on those bets. So, yeah, that's my reasoning on that one. Fair enough, Dave. I can understand not wanting to touch the Panthers. They've been absolutely grim, and I can understand not going against the Raiders. They've been very, very solid lately. So, should be an absolutely cracking game. I think that is, there's a few great games on this weekend. Panthers-Raiders is one of them, and obviously, like, Storm-Manly is another one of those ones that's going to be absolutely fantastic. So can't wait for that one. But I know it's only 5 best bets this week, guys. It's not going to be all the best bets that I'm giving out. Obviously, make sure you download the free Tripod app. That's where I'll be posting not only these plays from the pod, but also any additional plays. And I'm sure I will find some. And like I said, I have to wait and see if I can get any better lines on some of those other games that I'm borderline on. And if I do find a line that is, that I can pull the trigger on if it moves slightly, I'll certainly just fire it into the app straight away. So make sure you got that. You will get a notification when we post all those best bets in there as well. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. You will see me obviously tonight. I'll see you Sunday after the late game. And then Jacob should be joining us, I believe, next Wednesday to break down round 20. So let's hope that we can go undefeated while Jacob's been away, and that'll be a nice gift for him to come back for. So we're going for 7 weeks in a row, guys. Hopefully we can do it, and I'll catch you in the app, catch you in the group. Peace out.